You always have that, we call it commander's reserve.
All right. Well, at the start of the insurgency, there were those who expressed concerns that this was not a conventional war. You can't take anything really from the Nigerian military when it comes to conventional warfare. You know, they've won accolades everywhere.
Yeah.
But the insurgency was something new at the time it started in this country, and it was felt that the military were not quite prepared at that time for a non-conventional warfare. Did that really affect the fortunes of the country's defense architecture at that time?
Well, let me talk about the aspect of not being fully prepared. What happened that the reaction was not as it is now then was because all the stakeholders, the major stakeholders that were supposed to give us the direction maybe will I say 2013, 2012 then, did not categorize. Let me even start from the Northeast. They did not classify it in the proper way so that it can be tackled appropriately. I don't have the permission to begin to go into specifics. If you had told the armed forces of Nigeria in 2012 or thereabout, or even before that, as when we are talking of 10 years ago, that this is war, it would have been a different ballgame altogether. And whatever nature of war or conflict it is, we would have been able to do what? To adjust. What we should not forget is that the armed forces of Nigeria have the basic training up to the medium cadre training that even these criminals, the so-called insurgents, don't have. To adjust is just like changing the model of a car or modifying an aircraft. Normally, like for instance, aircrafts are produced generally. Then you now give them specifications. Just like the Tucano now, you give them the specifications of what you want. The basics are there. That is how the armed forces of Nigeria is. We have the basics. So if it was defined from the word go, that look, this is insurgency, go out for war, it wouldn't have taken us 3 or 6 months to change our training in mission. We call it in mission training, just like we have the Nigerian Army Special Forces School in Buniyadi now, and then changing some of our course curriculum and trainings at Jaji, amongst others, and all the services, because that was a major problem, that it seems as if we were not prepared for it. But when it was now defined, for instance, when this present commander-in-chief came and gave the marching orders, it was clear, and we achieved decimation within this predicted time of 1 year.
All right.
So that is the situation. It's the same with the Northeast. In the Northeast, the impression we had, or everybody had, was that these are your brothers, and people were used to being, levied. They call it protection money, until they now begin to renege on their on their agreement. So, and now that it is defined, you can see what we are doing in that area. So that was the problem, and as it were.
Interesting. You've used the term now, decimation, and that has been one term that Nigerians have come to know. But tell us, would you, at a point in time, the insurgents were said to have been decimated. That was a new term to most Nigerians. They wondered what decimation. Understandably, quite a number of people imagined that when you talk about decimation, it would mean that you have so incapacitated the insurgents that they would lack the ability to still strike. But over time, we also heard about being technically defeated. What are Nigerians missing here? Because a number of people would still say to you, well, they've been decimated, technically defeated, but every day they're still striking at targets, still carrying out their reign of terror. What are we missing here? What don't we understand about these things?
Yes, what I would like the general public and Nigerians to understand is that they started as insurgents. What is insurgency? They achieved it, as it were. How did they achieve it? They had total control, sovereignty over localities, even up to local governments, 20 or thereabout. Insurgency, it means that you want to carve out a territory for yourself, which they carved out at local government levels. You can imagine. The decimation we meant then, and which was achieved, was that you will now reduce that capacity to occupy territory, hold, generate revenue, and administer. As it were, they had judicial system. They had their courts. They had their law enforcement agents. But that now has been what? They were decimated, and that is still on till eternity. Technical defeat, in the sense that they no longer have what it takes. They were doing patrolling all manner of military activities in their so-called, in quote, territories, as it were. That is what it means. But that did not stop criminality. It is a criminality that we are handling now, which, because it is asymmetric and for several other reasons, appears as if it's a bit difficult. But no, there was a remote issue. People that were, I am experienced to some extent in that area. 21 years ago, I fought in that place. I was a member of the first multinational joint task force as a commander, a major, under General Temlong. And this same thing that you are seeing today is a semblance of what it was then. They called them bandits, as it were. And they were armed up to platoon weapon, area weapon of GPMG. And we did our analysis and we said, no, this thing is beyond the way people are looking at it. Say they are just mere criminals, they are thieves here and there. And it graduated to what we have. And they so worked on the people's psychology that they will not talk. They were paying what they call it security fee protection levy. And we were even warned, we were even advised by the various authorities then, 1998-99, that we should not touch them. You can imagine what the people have been indoctrinated with. So when the insurgency started, they were still under that grip. They don't talk. But now, when the operations, we spiked up our activities. Yeah, the chief of army staff went there for 2 months and all. At the initial stage, at gonorrhea and all when we attacked, within 6 weeks, we were able to neutralize about 500 of them. Within another short period, all bombardments by the Air Force and land, we neutralized. And the people now, with our constant education, we spread leaflets amongst others that they should not follow these people. They are not offering them good, and they saw it. At a point, they began to dump their families, their dependents, 72, 80, like that. And we recovered all of them to the resettlement centers. And they said, no, that means you now have confidence to give information. Of course, in all fairness, if you see my press releases in the last 24 hours, somehow we don't need to even implicate the people who are protecting them, or the people that give information. And that was what the remote cause of what happened, that they went to wipe out about 81, 40 something, and then they started, come, we are going to pray for you, we are going to preach to you, and they started killing them. We got the information. The remote cause is that you are no longer with us, we are giving out information. But if it were so at the onset that they were volunteering information, credible information, I will tell you that the Northeast is the most difficult to get information, as it were. Until we applied what happens, what is supposed to be, the collaborators began to pick them and all. So that is why you see it like that. But otherwise, the decimation achieved, the degradation, technical defeat, yes. Because what they have now is criminality, and a few people, let us not forget